Thank you so very much. Thank you for that kind introduction, and above all, for the great work you're doing, the great work that the Schlapps are doing, the great work that people in this audience are doing. So many of you have made all the difference in the world in this fight against modern-day slavery, so thank you for that. I mean, the fight, we're engaging it with everything we have, but we still need to make far more progress than we've made so far. We need every single law enforcement person to be situationally aware, and that goes for across the board, our hospitals. And we did a bill years ago when we discovered that the traffickers so often brought in their commodity, the person that they thought they owned, to get medical help, and nobody would ask questions. Nobody would say, what is this? Why do you have these bruises? So that changed with legislation that we got passed as well, so that many of our, particularly the emergency room folks, are situationally aware as to what's going on. And if something doesn't look right, you call law enforcement and have them take care of it, and that will hopefully free that woman or that individual, as well as not protect, but lead to a prosecution of the trafficker. You know, in 1995, I've been in Congress since 1981, but in 1995, we began to see, because I did a lot of human rights work in the Soviet Union, the East Bloc countries, China. I chair the China Commission, and I have a hearing that I'm doing again today on Taiwan. But we began to see with the breakup of the Soviet Union that the apparatchiks, the KGB types, were all going into organized crime. They were already in it, government-sponsored. Now they were doing it in a more privatized fashion. And not only were they selling drugs and weapons, they were also turning women, especially, into commodities for sale. And I was shocked by it. The rise of the internet provided an additional incentive for people to make those connections. Pornography flourished, and that led to an additional demand that I think is absolutely unconscionable. But it did lead to many, many people getting snared, especially women. I introduced a bill on the issue of child trafficking in the 1990s, mid-1990s. Tried like crazy to get it passed. We got it passed in the House, and the Clinton administration opposed it, and it died in the Senate. I then introduced the Trafficking Victims Protection Act in the late 1990s, and it was deja vu all over again, to quote Yogi Berra, who's from my state. It was like, here they go again. Saying, we want to be involved with this, but we don't want you to tell us what to do. So I had all the hearings on it, on our bill. We had Harold Koh, who was the Assistant Secretary for Democracy, Labor, and Human Rights. A guy that was genuinely had real credentials in the human rights community, who testified against 80% of the bill. He said, we don't need a tip office. We don't need sanctions, because Madeleine Albright doesn't want any sanctions whatsoever on the international side. They like the Interagency Coordinating Committee, and they also like the T-visa, and they like up to life imprisonment for those who commit these heinous crimes, particularly life if the child happens to be 14 or less, and up to 20 years for others. They like that. Everything else, no way. They didn't even want reporting. And I don't know if you've seen the TIP report. It's very, very voluminous, very data-driven, and on the three principles: protection, prosecution, and prevention. And there's a narrative for each country in the world to determine whether or not they live up. And if they don't live up to at least these standards that are prescribed in the bill, what happens? They get sanctioned. And we need more sanctioning, frankly. But, over the years, there have been very faithful presidents to adhering to following up on the sanctions and everything else. I'll never forget George W. Bush, to his everlasting credit, put two of our best allies on what we call Tier 3, egregious violators. And that would be Israel, and that would be South Korea. Within a year, they passed laws, did a mobilization to get off that, because we were a mirror being held up to them. We said, well, we don't want women being sold into slavery in Tel Aviv or in Seoul, Korea, or anywhere else. And they did the right thing and got off Tier 3 the old-fashioned way. They earned it. And now they are Tier 1 countries because of the good work that they do. But we did have a situation under Obama. I'll never forget it. Because of other issues, President Obama went and falsified the grading of these countries, a lot of countries, 14 in all, and gave them inflated grades so that they would not be held to account, all for political reasons. So I held 2 hearings on it. The first one was, why did you get it wrong? Reuters, 3 reporters did a great incisive investigative report and found out that this isn't what the tip office wanted. This isn't what the people who live this every day wanted. It's what the politicos wanted in the White House, so they falsified the record. So I did 2 hearings on it, and the second one was, next time, get it right. They didn't, but at least we tried. There's always a tug of war within the Department of State. A lot of ambassadors and a lot of people in the state don't want to have that problem when they deal with their country where they're working. Hey, stand with the victim, and stand with the victim exclusively, and everything else changes. So, just for the record, this year is the 25th anniversary of the Trafficking Victim Protection Act. I am the prime author of it. Took 3 years to get passed. It almost didn't get passed. Sam Brownback played a great role over on the Senate side, and Sam's a great guy, and he was the Senate guy and did a wonderful job. But 25 years later, we have well over 2,250 major prosecutions that led to incarcerating these terrible people that traffic. One of them was Jeffrey Epstein. He died, of course, never got justice meted out, but he was being prosecuted pursuant to the provisions of the TVPA. I did 4 other laws since. One of them is called International Megan's Law, and that law took 8 years to get passed. The Obama people were against it, on the record. I couldn't get them to change. He ended up signing it, so go figure. But he kept blocking it in the Senate. 3 times we passed it in the House. Now, what does International Megan's Law do? Megan Kanka, that wonderful young girl and family, 7 years old, brutally murdered by a convicted pedophile, lived across the street. And then the perpetrator of that crime had the audacity to hand out posters, papers saying, do you know where Megan is? I mean, talk about a duplicitous man. Well, he was found out, prosecuted, he's in prison today. It led to Megan's laws throughout the country. Now, I discovered that many of those, once they get out of prison, and we have GAO data to back this up, they get a passport and they travel to hurt and to destroy, really, young children all over the globe, whether it be in Thailand, Mexico, Brazil, name the country. Child sex tourism is very real. So we got this bill finally into law, and what it does, it notices country of destination, but a convicted pedophile is planning on traveling to that country. And if they lie about it, they can get up to 10 years in prison. So we're not kidding. We want to stop child sex tourism. And as a way of redundancy and to ensure that we stamp the passports of all of these convicted pedophiles with a message to border security when they are coming into Thailand or whatever, that the bearer is on the sex registry list. And we know that they were being turned away at borders when they show up. The good news is well over 30,000 notices have gone out. It could have been more if we got it passed without the 8-year delay under Obama. But it is making a difference, and hopefully it's have a chilling effect. We also put reciprocity in the bill so we would be told when their child sex exploiters are coming here to exploit our kids. But it is mostly something where these people travel. They go away for 2 weeks, rent a little boy or little girl, and exploit the daylights out of them and destroy their lives. And we want no part of it, and hopefully we could do more. On the issue of one of the things we put into the law, and I won't go much longer, is that we said anybody who has not attained the age of 18, if there's any kind of conveyance of anything of worth, that constitutes child sex trafficking. If there's an element of force, fraud, and coercion after 18, that too. Now, Diddy was up in New York, being prosecuted on a number of things in the prosecuting document. One of them was the TVPA. I am shocked and dismayed that the jurors did not see that this was trafficking. They held him to account on prostitution, and I'm very worried that this could have an impact on other prosecutions, especially when brave women like Gina come forward and speak out and do so passionately, and then there's no conviction. and he gets off scot-free, and some clowns in the media are celebrating that. I was very disappointed in that, but again, there's 2,225 that are in jail today, and that's in prosecutions sometimes of one or many more people, and we need to do much more of that. One of the things we put into our law as well was to get the states to pass model laws that look like ours, and they can make it better, do it, so that we have more weapons out there on the legal side to bring prosecutions against these individuals. Protection, we need more shelters. There's not enough. And on the prevention side, we're doing a lot. A couple of years ago, I did the Frederick Douglass law, 5 of them totally, but that one was done a few years ago. And that is designed in part to provide situational awareness to all of our kids, elementary, secondary schools, let them know what this looks like, what to look out for, so that they're not ensnared by these traffickers who are very clever and very often can deceive a 12 or 14 or 15-year-old because they know what to do. We saw during COVID, and CPAC and some of the other groups did a great job at exposing this, that the whole grooming issue just took off. And that, so everywhere we look, there's these horrible challenges. Now, yesterday, the Foreign Affairs Committee passed out the reauthorization of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. We call it the Frederick Douglass Act, and that legislation is named after the greatest abolitionist who ever lived. I read his books. We actually worked with his great-great-grandson, Kenneth Morris, and he kept saying, we got to do more in prevention, more in prevention. So we're naming these efforts at educating our kids after Frederick Douglass, as well as the bill itself. It passed out of committee. Now, what is the backstory on that? 2 separate Congresses, the last one and the one before that. We got a comprehensive bill passed with over 400 votes in favor of it for the Frederick Douglass legislation. It died in the Senate both times. Bob Menendez, my senior senator, chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, would not allow it to come out. I was shocked, talked to his people, talked to him, could not get it out. He's gone now, so hopefully Chairman Risch will take this bill up. It should be on his desk on the Foreign Affairs side, Foreign Relations side, in very early September, and just do it. Unanimous consent it, get it passed. Trump, to his everlasting credit, has made this issue a very, very high priority. We're all grateful for that. So I'm very hopeful that he'll put some additional pressure on the Senate to get that bill to his desk. It has language in it, and I'll finish on this. I know I got to go. I'll finish on this, that provides HUD grants. Doesn't increase the amount of money that we're using at Housing Urban Development for vouchers, but it says $35 million per year for women, other victims, but they're almost all women that need this, so they have a decent place to be. I've met women, and one of them just last week, a young woman, who got re-trafficked because she had no place to live. So this provides, employment is part of the mix here, and certainly that is as well. So that is a major step forward if we can get this passed. I am working on legislation, I'm getting late, on legislation on forced organ trafficking. 2 months ago, in a vote of 4-6 to 1, my legislation, and I introduced it last time, got it passed then too, died in the Senate. China, under Xi Jinping, they are murdering tens of thousands of young people, average age 28, every single year. Mostly Uyghurs and Falun Gong practitioners, some Christians, and some Tibetan Buddhists, but mostly the first two, Falun Gong and Uyghurs, who are Muslims, to take their organs out. I've had 5 hearings on it. There's no doubt that it's a huge, huge problem. And Xi Jinping and his thugs in the PRC are making billions in this enterprise. Our new legislation says that anyone who's part of that supply chain gets up to 20 years in prison, and we would sanction Chinese officials, and just says enough is enough. This is the Joseph Mengele of trafficking of so-called health. And here's one little perverse fact. In the Middle East, there's a great demand for organs, in part because of Ramadan, when some people fast and they go too far and they cause problems to livers and everything. So there's a heightened demand there. Now, in the Middle East, they want Muslim organs. So what does the Chinese Communist Party do? It says, we have a supply. We're committing genocide already against the Uyghurs. Let's just kill them and take their kids, take their kidneys and everything else. 2 to 6 per, equally divided between male and female. So this would say, enough is enough. And it passed here, 406 to 1. I mean, what kind of vote is that? Lopsided, shows everybody who wants to get this done. Hopefully the Senate will take that up as well. We're working on a hotel bill on situational awareness there and giving preference to those hotels. And there's many of them that are doing a good job there of making their workers situationally aware. Ditto for the airlines where these flight attendants, they see something that doesn't look right. Oh boy, I'm getting the hook. They see something that doesn't look right. Tell the pilot, he tells, when you offload, you separate potential victims from the traffickers and arrest them. And not the people that are trafficked, but the traffickers. So thank you so much. Please talk to the Senate about this bill. It's called the Frederick Douglass Trafficking Victims Protection Act and Reauthorization. And again, I can't thank you enough. I can't thank the Schlaps enough for their leadership on this. It really does make a difference. And God bless you.